Hello, everyone. My name is Anita, and I welcome you all to this journey into genetics. In this video, we will explore how proteins are made, how small changes in our DNA can lead to diseases, and how traits and disorders are passed down in families. First, we'll talk about protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is a process by which our DNA instructions are turned into proteins, and it happens in two stages. The first is transcription, which happens in the nucleus, and translation, which happens in the cytoplasm. Now, transcription is a process by which our DNA is copied into mRNA called messenger RNA. Our DNA is just think of the DNA as something that is very important. We do not want to mess with it, we do not want to destroy it because they make us who we are. So we copy into an mRNA. It is a copy, it is one strand. A DNA is double stranded while an mRNA is one strand. Now, in this process, the DNA unwinds, exposing all the nucleotides and then a transcription factors. Transcription factors are proteins which turn off genes and turn on genes when they are needed. For example, if a cell wants to code for a protein, a very important protein, let's say hemoglobin, in the cell, the transcription factors will be the one to turn on the gene which is essential for that protein. And then the enzyme RNA polymerase will come in and then read through the DNA and starts copying it, turning it into mRNA. So in this process, like I said, the enzyme RNA polymerase comes in. The transcription factors help the enzyme to shows the enzyme where to start reading the DNA. So the enzyme RNA polymerase uses one DNA strand as a template for the mRNA. Now, once this is done, the mRNA detaches itself from the DNA and the DNA goes back to its normal shape. That's the double helix shape. And then it goes through modifications before it leaves the nucleus to enter the ribosome. Next part is translation. Translation happens in the ribosome. This process is when the mRNA enters into the ribosome reads the mRNA in three bases at a time. And it is called a codon. So the first three bases is called a codon, the other one is called a second codon, and so on. And then another RNA called tRNA, which is transfer RNA, brings in an anticodon and an amino acid attached to it. As we can see here, the tRNA, as soon as the ribosome reads the mRNA, the tRNA comes in with an anticodon and also with an amino acid attached to it. And then it keeps on reading and reading and reading till it reaches a stop codon on the mRNA. This tells the ribosome that the translation is done. Then afterwards, a string of amino acid is produced. Now, what if a mishap happens? What if something goes wrong and then a mistake happens while the RNA was reading through the DNA and then he puts in the wrong bases, producing the wrong mRNA, and then the ribosome reads the mRNA, and then it all turns into a one big mess. Well, that kind of mutation is called a point mutation. A point mutation is when a base change. It's just a single base. Either it is added or it is deleted or it is changed. Sometimes it has an effect, sometimes it doesn't have an effect. Sometimes the codon which is changed can still code for the same amino acid which the ribosome wants to produce. While sometimes when the base is changed, that base is changed, it codes for a different one, and then the amino acid is different. And then it all mess up the proteins because amino acids are building blocks of proteins. After the building blocks are made in strings, they would go through processes with folding into the secondary shape and the tertiary shape and the quaternary shape, which can give the final protein. But if there is a mistake, such an example is called a cystic fibrosis. Now, cystic fibrosis is an autosomal recessive disease. It is a disease that affects the CFTR gene that is important for coding the protein, which is essential for salt and water distribution in the body. If the cells doesn't get enough salt and water distribution equal amount, it can lead to different types of problems like lung problems and other organ problems in the body. So cystic fibrosis is an example of a point mutation where a single base is changed while coding for that amino acid, and the whole system disrupted. Now, how is cystic fibrosis inherited? Cystic fibrosis, like I said, is an autosomal recessive disease. So a person needs two copies of the gene. The person needs two copies of the gene to express the symptoms. So let's say if the mother is a carrier and the father is not, well, one of her children will be a carrier or they will be normal. But if both parents are carriers, a person needs two copies of this gene to express its symptoms. If both parents are carriers, they can eventually pass it on to their children. Either one of their child is not affected, one is a carrier, and one is affected completely, one will show the symptoms. So it is very rare for a person who only has one copy of the gene to express this symptoms. Now let's move on to gender inheritance. Now, as a gender, as a person, we're all made up of chromosomes. We get 23 chromosomes from our mother and 23 from our dad, which is combined 46 chromosomes. Now, in this video, we see that there is a female egg cell and there's a male egg cell and sperm cell. So when you join this both together during fertilization, it creates a baby with 46 chromosomes. So these sex chromosomes are what determine our gender, either being a girl or a boy. Now, how is our gender inherited? Well, a male has X and Y chromosomes, while a female's sex cell have XX chromosomes. A female X cell will always contribute an XX chromosome, while a male sex cell will either contribute an X or Y chromosome. If the During fertilization, if the male sex cell contribute a Y chromosome, that means the child is a boy. And if the sex cell contributes X chromosome, that means the child is a girl. But sometimes these chromosomes can come with diseases, can come with an inherited diseases. Our X chromosome not only determine our inheritance, our gender inheritance, sometimes it can lead to, sometimes when our parents or any one of them, either the father or the mother, can have a mutation on their chromosomes. If they pass it on, it has a 50% chance of them passing it on to their children. Now, one of this X-linked disease is called hemophilia A. Now, hemophilia A is an X-linked recessive inherited disorder. It is found on the X chromosome. This is a recessive disorder. So, in females, they need two copies to express this gene, express the symptoms, while in a male, they only need one because males only have one X chromosome. They need only one to express this gene. So if the mother is a carrier and the father is not, the mother can either pass it to her daughter as a carrier or her son as an affected one. But if both parents are carrier, if the mother is a carrier and the father is affected, then the father can inevitably this the father can send it can the father the father can pass it on to her to his daughters, or and one of the daughters can either be a carrier or one of them can be affected, then the son cannot be affected or cannot even have the disease at all. So now we are going to talk about chromosomal abnormalities. Now, chromosomal abnormalities is abnormalities found on our chromosomes. Like I said, we have 46 chromosomes, we have 22 autosomes, and we have one pair of sex chromosomes that is found in our gametes, which are sex cell, the egg and the sperm. So, in the first one, this chromosomal abnormalities happens during cell divisions where chromosomes do not separate properly, which can lead to one gamete having more chromosome and the other one having less chromosome. Now, this can lead to a disorder called Down syndrome. This is when the chromosome 21 did not separate properly during meiosis, leading to one of the either the egg cell or the sperm cell having more copies, having two copies of the chromosome 21. And during fertilization, when the sperm meets the egg that has two copies of this chromosome 21, that baby ends up having three copies of the chromosome 21, leading to a Down syndrome, which is also known as trisomy. So we can now see that our chromosomes, our sex chromosomes, and how our DNA plays a very, very big role in our life. In conclusion, we can see that our DNA is used to produce our proteins, and any any disruption in our DNA can lead to a point mutation, which can lead to a disease known as cystic fibrosis. We can see that the sperm of the father is the one which which shows us either a female or a male. And we can see that sometimes our chromosomes, our sex chromosome can carry diseases such as hemophilia, which are inherited from our parents, our grandparents, which they pass it on from generations to generations. And we can also see that when a gamete when a gamete has three copies of chromosome 21, which is called a trisomy, will eventually lead to a Down syndrome. Here are my references, where I got the sources of information from, and thank you for watching.